Welcome to the Patreon NHL Ice Guys. It's Thursday, December the 5th. I'm Ian Cameron, joined by Alex B. Smith and Andrew McGinnis as we're ready to break down the Thursday NHL card. I believe we have 9 games to talk about on this Thursday slate. Welcome in, everybody joining us on Patreon. We appreciate you guys tuning in and supporting us daily on the Patreon NHL Ice Guys. Let's get right to it. We'll start at the top of the rotation, as we always do. Arizona, Philadelphia. First game in rotation order. Philadelphia minus 145. Home favorites in this game. Total 5.5, shaded to the under. Wow, these are two teams that it's pick your poison in terms of who do you want to go against right now. Flyers playing good hockey as of late. Got a win the other night against Toronto, albeit they got pretty badly outplayed in the first period. Survived some pretty strong opportunities on net from the Leafs, and some good goaltending from Carter Hart pulled them through that first period when they didn't necessarily play their best hockey in that opening period, but they got through it, and then they ended up cruising to a 6-1 win, just an onslaught against the Leafs in the third period, especially in the last few minutes, and a brutal loss if you had the under in that. I still keep thinking back to that game. How did it go over the total when it was 1-0 going into the third period, and you had under 6.5? You're thinking pretty good. Looking pretty good at that time, and it just didn't work out. Horrible beat if you had that. So the Flyers playing good hockey, especially at home, but let's not sell this Arizona Coyotes team short. They're playing some really good hockey themselves. They've been road warriors, 7-2-1, their last 10 on the road. Really, really good road results for the Coyotes. It looks like it's kind of surprising to me that Philadelphia has actually gone away from Carter Hart tonight and going to go with Brian Elliott. And not that Brian Elliott's not deserving of it. He's had a solid season as well. But when Carter Hart's coming off the game that he just had against the Leafs, his best game in a while, don't you throw him back in there if you're Alain Vigneault? And I don't usually question a guy of his caliber as a coach. I like Alain Vigneault, but I just don't know what he's thinking a little bit here with this kind of move and not going right back to him in net for this game. But it's tough. I mean, I took Toronto the other night. It didn't work out, and I feel like, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, banging my head against the wall, going against Philly, trying to go against Philly again tonight. But I am going to take Arizona here in this spot at plus 130. They're a very good road team. They're great in the underdog role. They always keep these road games tight to the vest. They're very good. That's why they're a good road team, because they take defense travels and they bring the defense usually. And Darcy Kemper continues to be a really, really good netminder for this Coyotes team, having a really solid season once again. So, and I like the number. I thought this game should have been closer to pick 'em than it is right now. I thought Philly minus 120 or even 30, I could see it at home, but minus 150 and even 55 up where we saw it earlier this morning. No, that's a little bit of a overlay on the Flyers as a home favorite against a very good Arizona team. So with the value, I'm on Arizona here, plus 130 in this one. Alex, what's your thoughts on the Coyotes taking on the Flyers?
Yeah, I jumped on that too, and we talk about. I think we talk about it more in college sports with fraudulent streaks than anything. But if you look at who the Flyers have beat, okay, Toronto, we've seen them kind of go up and down since Sheldon Keefe took over. They beat Detroit. Everybody's been beating Detroit. They beat Columbus. Nearly everybody's been beating Columbus. So this 5-game stretch is not against the stronger teams for the most part. Like I said, Arizona's a great road team. We know they like to shut things down, slow things down. And that's kind of the same pace in which Philadelphia played. Like I said, it was a 1-0 game going into the third the other night. They weren't scoring just 5-6 goals right away early in the game. So a lean with the under, but I'm definitely on Arizona. I grabbed the plus 130. I'm seeing plus 125 now. I thought about taking a shot with the regulation, but I think I'm just going to stick with the money line here because we've seen Arizona go into overtime a lot, especially in some games on the road. So I'm just going to stick with the Coyotes to win it.
All right, Alex agreeing with Arizona as well, on them at plus 130 in this game as well. Jimmy Murphy not here yet. He may check in during the show. And, of course, we've given him the moniker Jimmy Puckline here on this show. We're going to give our friend Andrew pretty soon, Andrew Regline. That's what we're going to call him, as in regulation line, because he's mentioned on this show the last couple that he's been on this week. He's changing his theory a little bit, trying to go with more regulation prices, especially on favorites, save a few cents of juice. That's been his mindset, and that's been his strategy lately in the NHL. Andrew, what do you think here, Arizona and Philly?
Yeah, I'm the outlier here, and I'm going with the regulation here with the Philadelphia Flyers. And it's interesting because I think what you just said, Alex, does actually apply to both teams. I kind of saw the exact same thing you saw with Philadelphia with the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, like you just said, they beat Columbus, and Columbus isn't anything to be too proud about. They beat LA twice, which isn't anything to be too excited about. They beat Anaheim. They're probably the most average team in the league. Again, nothing to be too excited about. And then they beat a Calgary Flames team. And during that span, Calgary wasn't looking too special and they weren't really clicking. So, I think that both these teams actually probably fit in that same category you were talking about. And all the games that the Arizona Coyotes were losing were against teams like Vegas or Edmonton, Toronto, teams that are actually going to be quality teams making playoff pushes, so on and so forth. So, look, with that theory and minus from a pretty bad price from a minus 140 range down to a plus 103 at Pinnacle is what I got. And I look at the way that the Philadelphia Flyers shut down the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I get it. It was Carter Hart, and Carter Hart stole that first period from Toronto Maple Leafs the other night. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's still a team effort, and I'm going to look for them to build off that. I definitely like the under as well, but the official play I have on this one is Philadelphia here at home.
All right, like in Philly in regulation, plus 100. And yeah, these are two teams playing some really good hockey right now. You could bellyache a little bit about the quality of some of their wins, both teams lately. But yeah, that's why it makes a good game to handicap, because you can make a good case for either of these teams, both of them surging a little bit at the moment. So Philadelphia in regulation, even money, plus 100 right now with the Flyers for that. Chicago and Boston, we've got the Bruins minus 215 home favorites, total 6 in this game, slightly shaded to the over. The Chicago Blackhawks obviously struggling on the ice, it goes without saying. Good on Alex for taking, I believe, St. Louis the last game they played against the Blackhawks, and St. Louis just shutting down this Blackhawks team completely. Now it's back in the tank, it looks like, with this Hawks team. Peaks and valleys. They're in a big-time valley right now. Losing to St. Louis, losing back-to-back, getting clobbered over the weekend by Colorado. You got the injuries mounting. You got Ole Mata on the defense banged up. Duncan Keith on the defense out. You got the flu going through the Blackhawks dressing room right now, with Robin Lehner affected by that. You got some forward absences potentially tonight, namely Dylan Strome. I mean, there's just a lot of issues, and you're just, all of a sudden you're not scoring as many goals. Your defense is completely fallen apart again in recent games, allowing too many goals, which was too often a situation that was existing for the Chicago Blackhawks, and some of those woes of last year's defense starting to creep back into the Blackhawks game. The question is, can you trust Boston to play 60 minutes of hockey? Because they've been playing 20 minutes of hockey and getting away with it for the last several games. How many times do we see Boston lately trailing or tied going into the third period, and it takes them into that third period to turn their game on and get going? It happened again last night with Carolina. We know the third period comeback against Montreal. We know the third period comeback at home against the Rangers on Black Friday. We know the third period comeback at home against Minnesota, the game Andrew was at when he was visiting Boston. I mean, it's just, Bruins have been a third period magic team. It's like, you might as well just save your money, not bet Boston before the game. Wait till the third period rolls around and hit them live. I mean, that's been that's been working out like a charm lately, involving the Boston Bruins, and it shows you how good of a team they are. I mean, they play their C- game for 2 periods most of these games, and they still win. They can just turn it on at the flip of the switch. Although, if you listen to the Bruin quotes going into this game, Bruce Cassidy, Marchand, a couple of the players on this team talking about how, at some point they feel like these slow starts and getting behind in games and not coming out fast and ready at the beginning is going to cost them at some point. You're not going to consistently be able to dig yourself out of a hole. So the Bruins sound like a team that'll bring 60 minutes to the ice tonight. And if they do, and I think they might tonight, based on what I'm hearing, might be too much for Chicago. Again, they got problems on the ice. They're playing awful on the ice. They got injuries, the flu through the team. They got this Mark Crawford situation that they're still dealing with off the ice too, that investigation. Like, it's just a lot of issues swirling around this team right now. Not a healthy environment whatsoever at this point in time. Healthy in terms of the flu too, healthy in terms of another type of health. So it's everything right now for Chicago. I did a rare puck line, Ian puck line here on Boston, -1.5 at plus 120 is the best price out there on the Bruins. If they play 60 minutes, I think they win this game by 2 goals or more. The only times they've won by a single goal are these times they've come out slow. So I think the Bruins have a chance to win this game by 2 or more tonight. So I'm on the Bruins here on the puck line. The one concern is they got a huge, and it's going to be hyped up as a potential Stanley Cup Finals preview. There's no way around it when the Bruins host the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday night in what should be a phenomenal game, no question. You worry slightly. Maybe Boston's looking ahead to that, but they don't sound like it based on what I'm hearing. They sound like a team that knows they're not playing a full game lately, getting away with it, but they want to get back to that tonight. So for me, I'm on Boston here, puck line -1.5, plus 120. Alex, what's your take on the Blackhawks, who are back in the doldrums again as they take on Boston?
Yeah, it's been an absolute mess, and to add to all the things that you mentioned yesterday during practice, Zach Smith accidentally collided with Patrick Kane, and Patrick Kane was down on the ice for a good few seconds, had to leave the practice as well. So he, nothing, serious. Didn't have to do any concussion protocol things or anything of that nature, but still, just like I said, what else can go wrong with this Hawks team right now? Dylan Strome did practice; he should be back in the lineup tonight, but Duncan Keith is out. Andrew Shaw is out. Shaw might be back tomorrow night in New Jersey. And Robin Lehner is actually back, seemingly healthy enough from the flu to start tonight, which I was kind of really hoping that he would take another night off and it would be Kevin Lankinen, the Rockford call up to play in this game, because Lankinen started in Boston at the end of the preseason when it was all of the Boston Bruins top guys against basically the Rockford Ice Hogs. And he got lit up quickly in that game. So I was hoping that we would have seen him and I would have been all over the over and the puck line with Boston here. But I'm taking the team total over with the Bruins. I think this is a good spot for them, like I said, to play a full 60 minutes. We know the Hawks have been getting off to slow starts, even in games where they win as well. So this is a good spot, a good team for Boston to kind of get that tune-up going. Like I said, before they play a higher quality team like Colorado at home, they can get things focused. They've played well against the Hawks, 7-4 the last 11 meetings. This should be a pretty easy game, and I think we're going to see the Bruins not only win this game, but they're able to work on things that they need to work on in game during the 60 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Hockey Night in Canada obviously is such a huge thing in Canada. Hockey Night in Canada is not getting the main television treatment from me on Saturday night. Well, first of all, you got tons of college football. That's number one as well. You got to make room for the conference championship games. But number two, that Boston-Colorado game is getting a priorium on my televisions here on Saturday night, and that's not a Hockey Night in Canada game, but that Boston-Colorado game should be something on Saturday night. Andrew, what's your take here before that as Boston hosts Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, what you said there, Ian, about the games that, Boston playing a 20-minute, game has been so true. But this team is so talented and so capable of doing that, it seems like, that obviously eventually it has to fade, guys. Eventually they have to, they're going to get called on it and it's going to end up not backfiring for them. But, I see Alex getting pretty hyped up on Twitter, taking them live, and rightfully so, catching some pretty great prices. And I know, Ian, yourself on different shows you've been on, you've been taking it. And look, this is kind of a going against the grain spot here, but I just think that both teams need to work on their defense and playing. When I hear you guys consistently saying play a full 60 minutes, that screams over to me. And, the Bruins right now, their past 4 games have been actually relatively low scoring, besides that 8-1 game against the Montreal Canadiens. And as far as this Blackhawks team go, I understand Keith's out of the lineup, they're missing Shaw, so on and so forth. But to me, this is one of those ones where when I feel the Bruins want to have a full 60, it means a full defensive 60, because as the Bruins have proved, they have the talent to win those close games. They don't need to blow you out. They're capable of doing it. But I feel like Chicago's going to go out there and know that they can't go goal for goal with this Bruins team, and they're going to have to play a defensive style. So I'm on the under 6 in this game here, and I feel like Lehner will get a good performance, and so will Rask. So I'm on the under 6, and again, I feel like if the Blackhawks have a chance, they got to keep it low scoring. If the Boston Bruins want to play a full 60, that full 60 to me means the full 60 of defense, not offense. Their offense is not the worry right now. Back to that. Close 20 minutes.
I think we've lost Andrew. I'm hearing him cut out here, so we'll get Andrew going again. But he likes the under anyway, 6, minus 105, Boston and Chicago. Next up, we've got Vegas and the New York Islanders. New York Islanders, that is, minus 115 home favorites, total 5.5, shaded to the under in this one. Andrew's back. It was just a momentary little reception issue there, but it looks like Andrew's back. Islanders, interesting team. Obviously, they've had a really hellacious schedule, lots of travel. For the New York Islanders. They definitely have. They were out in California. They were back home against Columbus. They're out on the road again against Detroit, on the road again against Montreal, back home now against Vegas. So that's like how many games now? 7 games in a row with travel between games. That's not a spot I'm looking to lay a price with the Islanders in. And Vegas, they came into this road trip looking to take it seriously, saying we need to be more consistent, got to get our game back. to more consistent level. So far, so good. 2-0 for Vegas to start this road trip, albeit Rangers and Devils have been kind of disappointing this season, both teams, but they get the wins. They score 4 goals. And don't look now, top players starting to percolate offensively for the Golden Knights. Marchessault starting to come to life again. Pacioretty starting to come to life again. Marchessault, Carlson as well, Smith. They're starting to find the back of the net because even Vegas's goal scoring production had dropped a little bit in this game. Important to note, we've talked about this before, Islanders, it's who's who of where they're going to play at home. Their home games. Sometimes they're in Brooklyn, sometimes they're in Nassau. They're in Nassau tonight, Nassau Coliseum. So it'll be a little bit more of a frenzied atmosphere. Crowd obviously very happy with what they've seen from this team here tonight. And something to point out with the Islanders, and I remember back to Toronto game and a couple of other home games they've played in Nassau this year, they don't mind being more aggressive offensively. And you got to think in this totals range here, 5.5 here, it's still Malcolm Subban in that. I know he's played a little bit better lately. I hate to pile on the guy because he has played better the last few games, but he's still got a 5.5 with him involved. An Islanders team that scored 3 goals or more 3 of their last 5 games. On the flip side, you've got an Islanders team that, in terms of their offensive production at home, 3 goals or more they've averaged at home this year. They've really struggled at times to score on the road. 2.5 goals per game on the road. That goes up to almost 3.2 at home. So I do think New York's got some capabilities to find the back of the net tonight, but I also think Vegas will. I think you talk about a little surprised Carter Hart's not in net for the Flyers. I'm a little bit surprised Thomas Greiss not in net for the Islanders because he's played well lately. They go back to Semyon Varlamov, he's been good too, not quite as good in my opinion. So I think this Vegas team, which has found some offense, 4 goals in each of their last 2 games, they can find some offense as well here tonight. And again, over 5.5 plus price. Thought that was a little bit of a bargain here. And for an Islanders team, we think long-term, under team, low-scoring team, defensive-minded. Well, in the last 10 games, you're dead even with totals in Islanders games. 5 overs, 5 unders the last 10 games. You haven't won or lost betting either one. I just think this is a little bit of an over situation at a nice little price here for the Islanders tonight. So Golden Knights, Islanders over 5.5 plus 100 for me. Alex, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, just a lean with the over. We've been finally seeing some solid goaltending from Malcolm Subban, who will be starting again tonight. Fleury is back with the team, but he will be backing up. Subban should be getting the start in the next game. So, Subban's doing what he needs to be done now, and I think that's a huge boost for this team. One, the team certainly feels better that they're getting goals, scoring production in front of them, getting wins for him because he had really gone through a really rough patch in his spot starts. The team just getting completely blown out, but also just good for his own mental psyche to get into a good rhythm, and also being able to give Fleury this extra rest, albeit not on the terms that Fleury wanted it to be. But this is going to be a huge part of the schedule to circle looking down the line when this Vegas team, should they get back into the race toward the top of the Western Conference, we can point back to this time and say, hey, wow, this is the time when Fleury wasn't playing. Subban was able to get them some wins, and now Fleury's rested up well enough to where he can play some extended minutes in the second half of the season. So with all that being taken into consideration, I would definitely be looking at the over here. Vegas starting to get the goal scoring together. 5.5 of the Islanders. We've seen the Islanders get goals in bunches at times too. Like I said, there's always a little bit more extra spirit, extra effort when they're playing in Long Island as opposed to Brooklyn. So just a lean with the 5.5.
All right, just a lean for Alex, 5.5 over 5.5 with the Vegas Islanders. Just a lean for Alex with that. Andrew, what's your thoughts? Golden Knights and Islanders.
Yeah, I'm on the over here, and I'll keep it quick. I've noticed a trend here with the New York Islanders where they play a way better style and they score way more when they're playing, a better competition. And I know that sounds weird, but it just seems to me that they kind of get up for those games a little bit more. Whereas if they're playing a crappy team, they'll just keep it 2-1, 3-1, and shut things down and coast to their win. So against Vegas here, I was thinking we'd see a 6. We're seeing the 5.5, and I feel like both teams get on the board. Subban, hats off to him. He's got a few wins under his belt now, but Islanders just have some talent up front. It's Subban versus Varlamov, I think, and I'm going to go over 5.5 here for an official play.
All right, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Vegas Islanders over 5.5. And another thing I forgot to mention, when they play at Nassau, it's like they are more aggressive offensively. I see them pressing a lot more offensively to score the Islanders than they do normally at Barclays or when they're on the road. It's like they want to put on more of a show when they're playing at Nassau, and that means maybe score some more goals and find the back of the net, get that red light going more when they play at Nassau Coliseum. I've noticed that on more than one occasion. I find they're more willing to pinch, take some chances when they're playing in that building compared to just Barclays or when they're playing on the road. So Andrew liking the over in this game as well. I believe we have Jimmy with us. We can't see him. I think he might be on the road, but I hear him in spirit right now. Jimmy,
what's up, guys?
How are you, buddy? We've got Arizona, Philly. We've got I'll give you the game. I'll throw the 3 games we've gone through so far: Arizona, Philly, Chicago, Boston, and Vegas and Islanders. What's your take on those 3?
All right, cool. I'll start quick with Arizona, Philly. I'm
I thought we had him in spirit. Well, the spirit has disappeared at this point in time. So, well, Jimmy, you there?
I'm here, guys.
All right, good. All right, keep going. Or no? Yeah, so we'll try to get Jimmy back going again here. But he was just about to get his thoughts on the first of the 3 games that we had gone through. But yeah, for Andrew,
that would be nice. But
all right, we'll see if we can get a. It's like when they're trying to do a news report. You know, it's like when you're trying to do a news broadcast and you're trying to hook up with the guest or the person you're interviewing via satellite, and it's just breaking up. Yeah, and that's what's happening here with Jimmy. All right, what we'll do is we'll probably have to drop Jimmy from the stream and see if he can reconnect or come back in and see if it's any better the second time around. Next up, we've got Colorado and Montreal. We've got. Let's see, Montreal -110, pretty much even money on both sides here, 6.5 the total. How about this news? Caden Primo getting his NHL debut tonight in net for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't get this. This is another goaltending move that kind of makes me scratch my head. Montreal finally snapped the losing streak. Carey Price gets a win finally. He's feeling at least a little bit better about himself. And now you're going to sit him down. I know it's back-to-back. Maybe that's probably does something to do with it, so maybe I should backtrack on that. But I still would have given Price this start against the Colorado Avalanche. Great hockey team. Good win for them last night against Toronto in that victory against the Leafs. Great goaltending from both Anderson and Grubauer in that game last night. But the Avalanche end up with a 3-1 win in that game. There's no way I'm betting against Colorado in these price ranges. When they're even money or underdogs or close to that, that's not the price range I'm interested going against Colorado in. Question is for the Montreal Canadiens now. You've put this young kid in his NHL debut in a game against a team that's got potency, that's as healthy as they've been in weeks, with Rantanen back, with Landeskog closing in on a return. This is a Colorado team that is extremely dangerous. Montreal did play a much cleaner defensive game in beating the Islanders the other night, ending this losing streak, but they're going to have to bring that exact same mindset tonight, or else they're going to be in tough here against Colorado. This is one of those perfect tough game totals wise to call, because Primo, prior to a start against Belleville Senators in the AHL's last start in the AHL before this call up, he was really lit up in that game. But prior to that, he's had a really good season down there. So it's going to be interesting. You always leave the door open that even though this guy's a first-time starter, that the team really digs in and buys in and tries to get him a win in his first start and plays well defensively. It's a big if with Montreal because we know it's been more of a shit show than not defensively for them the last couple weeks, but at least they showed signs of getting back to that in the win against the Islanders. So it's a pass all around for me, but it is a fascinating game. It's one of the most intriguing watches for me tonight, even though I'm not going to be betting this game prior to puck drop with the Avalanche and the Canadiens. We'll start with Andrew this time since he's the Habs fan in the house. Montreal against Colorado in the debut of Caden Primo.
This is an interesting game, and I don't have a play on it, but I look at Colorado the way they played yesterday. I was impressed with them. I think it was one of those games where Toronto probably could have came out on top, though. Spezza had that one error, and there were a few different times where Grubauer stood on his head and made some great saves. But when it came down to it, it was a full 60 minutes. And, this is one of those handicaps for me where I feel like the fatigue factor and the players coming back from injury, getting one more game under their belt, I feel like we could see an over. And, you're talking about backups being in, making you scratch your head, Ian. For me, some of these 5.5s we're seeing this evening are making me scratch my head because excuse me, 6.5, because I don't think this should be a 6.5. I think this should be much lower. I think Primo's not getting enough credit, and I could just see an under in this game. I could see the team really rallying around them. Montreal hasn't really been lighting up the score sheet by any means, and I feel like they're going to want to play for him. And this is a guy that's coming up from the minors, and I think that he's the future of the Tendies for the Habs, at least from the backup position. And I think they'll really rally around him. So I don't really have a side play in this game. I like Montreal to come out on top, but I definitely look at Colorado saying, hey, look, we got a win last night, but it wasn't our best game by any means. So they can come out hungry as well. I think it's a good defensive battle, and 7 goals is a lot of goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to lean to the under, nothing official. Look, this is not a great Colorado spot. Big game, revenge game against Toronto last night. Nazem Kadri going back home to face his former team. Colorado wanted to get a W there. They did. Now they're on the second night of back-to-backs, and now they have Pavel Francouz in that. Apparently he settled on Francouz as the pronunciation. It's gone from Francouz to Francouz. Now it's Francouz. I think he has settled on that. It's like a lot of these, and it's mostly these European players. They're just saying, "Oh, call me this. Nope, call me that 2 weeks later. Nope, call me this. Just don't call me late for dinner." Right? That's what some of these players are like. But it's Francouz now, apparently. Either way, he's in net tonight. It's just not a great spot for Colorado, in my opinion. But I haven't bet against Colorado once this season. Not once. And I'm not about to anytime soon. This is one of my absolute top teams in the NHL right now, and I got to have a damn good reason to go against them. And Montreal's not the team I'm willing to do that with. Alex, what's your thoughts? Habs and Avalanche.
A funny story about European goalie or names, especially goalies. Evgeny Nabokov back in the day when he was in the AHL in Kentucky went by John, because they pretty much told him that nobody in Kentucky is going to be able to pronounce Evgeny. So I remember that for about a good, year or so, talking about 20 years ago. But definitely a feel old moment with the son of Keith Primo getting the first career start in net for Montreal tonight. And looking at his numbers in the AHL, 7-4-1 with a 2.58 goals against. Not too bad to have those numbers in the AHL. This is definitely, like you said, an odd spot for both teams, but even more so like Colorado coming off of the revenge spot last game. And then, like we mentioned, they're playing Boston, and what many are going to say is a Stanley Cup final preview on Saturday. So you don't use the term sandwich spot too often in hockey, but that's kind of what this spot is. So I'm definitely going to be staying away from both of the side. Going to watch the first period and see how Primo handles things. Like I mentioned, sometimes the first career start for a goalie, because they don't really have a book on them. It could be tough for the team to figure him out, or it could be super easy for a team to figure him out. He may not last long or what have you. So I'll be watching this and look to possibly bet something live.
Yep, maybe a good live betting a game. No question about that. New York Rangers, Columbus. Columbus minus 140. The total 6 across the board in this one. A lot of intriguing things to discuss here. We've got the Columbus Blue Jackets that now they're crying for offense again. Remember a couple weeks ago, that's what again, you talk about a season that's such a long season, NHL, NBA, college basketball, seasons like that where you're playing every other day. There's going to be times where teams look great, they don't look great. Teams are, they all of a sudden look at this offense and then can't put the puck in the ocean. It's going to be those ups and downs, and there's no team stays the same and constant with their performance throughout the course of a long season. You got to just roll with the ebbs and flows. And for Columbus, started the season not scoring, had a little bit of an uptick a few weeks ago, and now they're right back into the offensive tank again. They've struggled to score goals in recent games, this Blue Jackets team. And the New York Rangers are coming into town, maybe playing some of their better hockey of the season. I know they didn't play well against Vegas the other night. It was their first flat game in a while. Not a Picasso from King Henrik that last game. It all started with totally botching the first goal that Vegas scored in that game, and then it got worse from him from there, and the Golden Knights beat the Rangers. But let's not forget, prior to that loss to Vegas, it's a Rangers team that had won 4 of their last 5. The only loss was against Boston in a game that they blew it in the third period. They were up in that game, one of those Bruin third period comebacks that I talked about. A Rangers team playing well, and the money on the board system is in play here. We talked about it with Kadri in Colorado last night, former team, player playing his former team. And that's going to obviously the scenario here with Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers playing his former team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm not saying that's an extra motivational factor. It is, but it's not going to impact the final score. But, teams in that spot do want to win for the guy. They do. And I'm sure New York is going to feel that way with Panarin going back to Columbus tonight against his former Blue Jackets team. And I think this is a night for Artemi Panarin goal-scoring prop to be worth a bet tonight in this game. He's been quiet 2 games in a row without a point, but that's been few and far between for Panarin. He had been really good tallying the points and the goals offensively prior to that. This looks like a good opponent and good time to bounce out of that little mini slump for Panarin tonight. I think he'll be fired up big time back at Nationwide Arena in Columbus facing this Jackets team. I just think it's pretty bodacious to be putting Columbus out there minus 140 at this point in time, considering how much of an offensive struggle they're having, considering Eunice Korpisalo is not a goalie I trust game in and game out. He's up, he's down, he's all around, and of course the same with Merzlikins. And Alexander Georgiev, we've had some trouble with him and trusting him in the past, but 5-2 in his last 7 starts. He is coming off a shutout win in his last start against New Jersey, so he's starting to win some games. He's starting to play with a bit more consistency. Live dog to me here with the blue shirts. Give me the New York Rangers here, plus 120. Bounce back time after the loss to Vegas. Still playing good before that. I think they were victimized by one of those nights where Henrik Lundqvist was just, I thought, pitiful in that game. A couple of those goals, it's like, what are you doing, man? You're flopping around like a fish there in the crease, can't even find the puck, and then you end up knocking it into your own net. And that's basically set the tone for the whole night for New York against Vegas. I think they step up, play a better game tonight. I like the Rangers side here at about plus 120. Alex, what's your thoughts on Rangers as they take on the Blue Jackets?
Yeah, the only reason I could think of why Columbus would be a favorite in this price range would be the fact that they've won 7 of the last 9 meetings with the Rangers. But like I said, we're talking about different teams, especially different goaltending we've seen in the past with Columbus. Now, this is a goaltending tandem that they said can't trust whatsoever. It's a good bounce back spot for the Rangers here with this price. Like I said, they've been playing decent hockey. Like I said, it was a slow start that pretty much killed them against Vegas in that last game, but they kept things close. It could have gotten completely out of hand. 4-1 is not the worst of a loss, especially when you start off that bad in the first period. So I'm definitely going to go with the Rangers here in this spot. I also want to look at the draw. 3 of the last 4 meetings have gone into overtime, so you get a plus 285 spot there. So I'll take Rangers money line. And I'll take the draw plus 285 too. Expect the Rangers to get the win and the extra frame. And maybe it'll be Panarin, a guy who's come through with some overtime goals to catch that goal scoring prop as well.
Yeah, I do like that goal scoring prop. I'll definitely have that one as well as a smaller play, Panarin to score a goal tonight. And the plus 280, there with the draw, Rangers and Jackets. Andrew, what's your thoughts? New York, Columbus.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. I'm on the New York Rangers in regulation. I got them plus 193 at Pinnacle, and that just ups the odds right there. And it's kind of the strategy I've been talking about. If I can hit a couple of these, all of a sudden it turns a decent price into a great price. And ultimately, the way I look at it, this Columbus team, they're susceptible to goals. They've been getting scored on against teams like like the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers right now, their record, I think, could be even better if they had any like a defense to them whatsoever. And the best part is you don't really need to have a great defense against the Columbus Blue Jackets. You have a mediocre defense. You're going to have a decent game against the Columbus Blue Jackets here. Columbus giving up 3.1 goals per game. New York scoring 3.2 goals per game. And they've been spreading out that offense quite a bit. So, on the rare chance that they're shutting teams down and getting some good goaltending, which we actually have seen recently, I feel like, against Columbus, we can definitely see a shutdown game. So for a team that's gone over quite a bit on the year, New York's actually trending to the under. And I think during that trend right now, that works against their matchup against Columbus because they simply have more scoring power, but they've also been clamping down their defense besides, of course, that Vegas game. I mean, again, look at they played Vegas. They lost 4-1. They played the Bruins. They lost 3-2. Those are some tough games. Before that, they were on a 3-game win streak. I'm the same way as you guys, and I noticed this specifically with you, Alex. The New York Rangers are a team that I back as a dog, and as some people might laugh at that. I don't really take them as favorites, but I just feel like the bookmakers give you way too good of prices with them too often, and I'm going ahead and making that a regulation at around a plus 195 price. It's just too good to be true for me against Columbus, and I'll take this 9 times out of 10.
All right, Andrew Puckline, he's back, plus 200, as actually an even better price in some spots, plus 200, New York Rangers in regulation. That is a great price indeed. There he is, Jimmy, ground control to Major Tom, as David Bowie once said. Let's see if we can get him. Hello, we've got him this time.
What's up, buddy? You got me?
How are you, Jimmy? We're good. We're good.
I'm good.
We're good. All right, it's Jimmy at Puckline time.
Crazy day, sorry.
No, that's okay. Stage is his. We've got 5 games we've gone through. Arizona, Philly, Chicago, Boston, Vegas Islanders, Colorado, Montreal. We just talked about Rangers and Columbus. Of those 5 games, Jimmy, what do you like?
Okay, let me start with.
Are you kidding?
Oh, no.
You lost me again? Oh, man. Not my day.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You're good. We got you.
I've been there. Trust me.
Do you guys hear me?
Yep,
Okay,
I hear you.
yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Now, what else do we got?
Vegas Islanders.
Vegas Islanders. Give me a draw in that. I like overtime in this game.
Yeah, it could be. Wouldn't surprise me if that's a tight one. And what's next? Colorado, Montreal.
Ooh, this is going to be interesting, huh? Caden Primo with his NHL debut.
Yes.
Interesting call by Claude.
Yep,
Rookie goaltender behind them. So I like the under in that game.
All right, like a Montreal, Colorado under, and New York Rangers, Columbus.
Rangers, Columbus. We'll go with the Blue Jackets money line in this.
Blue Jackets money line minus 140. All right, we're caught up with Jimmy. All right, next up we got Minnesota, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay minus 225. Home favorites total 6.5, depending on where you look in this one. There's some interesting things to talk about here in this game, because first glance at this game, I'm looking at it, I'm like 6.5 total with Minnesota. That's too high, way too high. It really, really is. Then you start to actually look at it and look at the scenario coming into this game. First of all, we talked about it the other day with Minnesota's offense. That's clicking right now. 5-on-5, they're scoring. Power play is scoring. They're finding ways to find the back of the net. They've scored 3 goals or more in 9 of their last 10 games. And then you look at the injury situation, and you think about the 2 guys that got injured for Minnesota the other night, even in the win against, they won that game 4-2, but injured in that game and out indefinitely. Jared Spurgeon on the blue line, one of their better, sturdier, stay-at-home, shut-down defensemen, and Mikko Koivu, who is not going to give you much at all offensively at this stage of his career, but is still a very, very good defensive-minded forward. You know, he's still got that two-way element of his game. Good penalty killer still, even though he doesn't give you much scoring. So you're talking about 2 critical defensive components to this Minnesota team out going into this game tonight. It's not necessarily good when you're about to play Tampa Bay, especially Tampa Bay at home. We know they can find the back of the net. They've scored 3 or more in 8 of their last 10. Most of those have been at home. I worry about the Minnesota defense tonight. Alex Stalock's been sliding along, doing a decent job. Now he's without one of his better defensive-minded defensemen, and now he's without Mikko Koivu, who is a top penalty killer and good away from the puck. Now this is where you could see, though, that fortress in front of Alex Stalock start to come loose a little bit. I think that could happen tonight in this game. And on the flip side, Tampa Bay is usually good still for giving up a goal or 2 or 3. They're still not a shutdown defensive team. They're still trying to find their way at that end of the ice. So the more I thought about it, initially I'm like, I can't bet this thing over 6.5. 6 shaded to the over, 6.5 in most spots. I've completely changed my tune. That's why doing your work and doing your handicapping in a particular game, and you find some things that make sense. And it's totally turned around to playing this over. And I got 6 at minus 125, even 6.5. I would play it. I mean, I think Minnesota's really going to be a much more vulnerable team at the defensive end of the ice with those 2 guys out, Spurgeon and Koivu, plain and simple. And now Stalock's not going to have the security of having 2 of those better defensive-minded players on the ice playing in front of him on a nightly basis. I think Tampa can take advantage. As I mentioned, Minnesota's been scoring goals, no problem, the last little bit, 3 or more in 9 of 10. So I'm going to go over this total here, 6 minus 125 at Chris right now, bookmaker Chris with the Wild and the Lightning. Alex, what's your thoughts on this one, Minnesota, Tampa Bay?
Yeah, and I saw the same thing with this total, like I said, 6.5. The thing that still kind of worries me is, as you mentioned, yeah, the vulnerability of the Wild defensively with no Spurgeon, out 2 weeks now with a broken hand, and Koivu. Koivu, I guess you could kind of, can't factor him too much. Like you said, he doesn't contribute a lot offensively, and he's a guy who's had injury problems in the past. So the Wild could kind of, if there's one guy that they could, find a way to play without, it would be Koivu of those two guys. But Spurgeon's a big loss offensively as well. 10 assists, 3 goals. He's a guy that can facilitate that offense a little bit. So, I worry about the offense for Minnesota. Maybe taking a slight step back. You talk about 6.5. If Tampa Bay, this is the Tampa Bay team that's giving you 5-6 goals every single night. So you're going to need to rely on the Wild to at least get 2 goals here in the spot, and maybe they could go flat and cold. And this is a series that's been home dominated. 11 of the 12 meetings, the home team has won, going back to 2011. So I'm going to take a shot here. I'll be Alex Puckline right now and go with Tampa Bay. You're only getting plus 115 laying the goal and a half, and I think they'll be able to win this one by margin.
You see, I'm with you in terms of, I think Tampa Bay could actually win this thing going away tonight, especially with a weakened Minnesota team. In my opinion, a weakened defensive team tonight. But Minnesota, just for some reason, they keep finding ways. I mean, they're finding ways to win right now, but I think they are up against it here tonight. The only thing that's keeping me off it is the price and Minnesota's propensity to find ways to win lately. But I think matchup-wise for this particular game, it sets up, I think, pretty decently for Tampa Bay. Andrew, what's your thoughts? Wild Lightning.
It's a pass for me on this one. I look at Minnesota. I think that for some reason, I just have a gut feeling that they could contend in this game. They've been kind of doing that against a lot of top tier teams recently. And, I get that Tampa Bay has the scoring power and the capability to go goal for goal and to score in high bunches. But the starts that they've had to games hasn't been the best. And the starts that Minnesota's had to games has been pretty good. So, you know what? Maybe if I had a lean on this game, it actually would be Minnesota plus a half goal first period. That's actually probably a play that I would look at. And then maybe Tampa Bay settles in and then, takes them out in the second and third. But no play for me on this one. I think it'll be a lot better of a game than people might expect it to be. And Jimmy, love the hat. Salt and pepper hats are pretty great. Used to have one myself.
There we go. Jimmy's hats are amazing. His hat collection is just absolutely extraordinary as far as I'm concerned. All right, Jimmy, what's your thoughts on Minnesota, Tampa Bay?
Spine's coming out in this one as well, guys. I like Tampa coming game. I think the little competitive run this has been on is going to come to a screeching halt. Tampa Bay,
Yeah, we've lost Jim. It's not Jimmy's day. You're absolutely right, Andrew. You hit the nail on the head with that. He's back again, I think. Or not. Nope. It isn't Jimmy's day. It isn't with the connection. But, hey, we all have those kind of days. Yeah. Hate the Wild. They screw me all the time.
Connection day here. Did you get me?
Yeah, we got you. Tampa puck line.
Yep.
We got the recommendation. That's the key thing. Exactly. So we can write that down. Tampa Bay puck line. Hey, one of those, it's a shit show connection day for Jimmy. We all have them sometimes. That's crazy how it can be sometimes like that. San Jose, Carolina. Carolina minus 155. Home favorites, total 6.5 here. Shaded to the under, although a rogue 6 out there at bookmaker/Chris. People that say I don't like San Jose, I don't like the city, I don't like the team, that I've got something against them, that I got to stick up my ass when it comes to the Sharks, that this year I won't say anything good about them. Well, I'm about to make your day right now, because guess who's on the San Jose Sharks tonight? Me. That's right, at the plus price here against Carolina. I think it's actually a decent spot for San Jose. They're coming into this game off a poorly played game against Washington. Logan Couture said they hung Martin Jones out to dry. Defensively, they weren't good. Got to play harder, be better defensively. It's a good bounce back spot. They've lost 3 games previously since early November, when this Sharks team started to put things together and play better. Off those 3 losses, all multiple goal losses, they won the next time out, and they won pretty good, like commanding going forward. So they've been a good bounce back team. Aaron Dell is a little bit of curveball. Aaron Dell is going to be in net. So you know what? I don't mind it. He actually has found ways to win a couple of games. It's not exactly a guy you can trust fully, but I think they play better defensively in front of him if heed the words of Logan Couture going into this game tonight. And really, to me, this is more than anything as well, not just, I think, a decent situation for San Jose. And it's not like they lost to a terrible team at home. They lost to Washington, who's scoring goals on everybody right now, a very good hockey team. I don't think it's one of those losses where San Jose can say, oh, we're going to go back in the tank again. First road game of a long road trip. Usually that's a focus spot for the Sharks. And on the flip side, what's there to like about Carolina right now? You've only scored 7 goals in your last 5 games combined if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. Their offense has dried up quite a bit. I've not liked the downward turn in Peter Mrazek's game in recent games. So we can talk about question marks all we want about Farmer and the Dell tonight for San Jose, but what about Peter Mrazek? He's not been necessarily razor sharp lately for the Hurricanes. We've seen them go belly up multiple times lately, Carolina, in this price range as bigger favorites. They lost outright as a minus 150 favorite against the Flyers. They lost in this price range against the Rangers lately. They've had some instances where they've been laying minus 150 or more, and they've lost those games. I think they could be on upset alert again here tonight against this San Jose team. So I think at the price plus 140, I'm going to go swimming with the Sharks tonight here. So those of you that say I hate San Jose, and I did call for them to miss the playoffs before the season began. Enough already. Get off my back. I'm on the Sharks tonight. Plus 140 in this game. Alex, what's your thoughts? San Jose as they take on Carolina.
It's always funny how people will get on our cases about that with certain teams. I mean, hey, the proof of the fact of the matter is that San Jose was a team that you've been able to make some money on fading most of the time, especially with their travel spots and different things for the last several years. I've been in the same boat most of the time with you on that. So, but this is a spot worth backing San Jose on. This Carolina team, there's something that's just a little bit off with them, this inconsistency we're seeing from them as of late, and I'm not sure what it is. It seems to be the offense, because they'll go from scoring 2-3 goals to having a game where they get shut out by Nashville, get shut out by Boston. So they aren't getting that speed and quickness it seems like they had been at the beginning of the season, or what we saw last year in their playoff run. So this is a San Jose team where they don't need to be fast to beat you. We talked about that for the last couple of years. They're one of the slower skating teams, if anything, in the league. And when they get in the position, they are able to set up quality chances. They get, you look at Carolina, the way they get 40 shots every night, but a lot of them don't go in, where San Jose can give you only 22 shots, 25 shots, and score 4 or 5 goals because of the quality of shots that they take. They're one of the better passing teams in the league. So all of that lines up towards a good spot. So I'm going to back San Jose as well as a plus price here.
All right, San Jose plus 140. Andrew, what's your thoughts on Sharks and Hurricanes?
Yeah, no official play for me on this one, guys, but I feel the same way you guys do. I feel like the San Jose Sharks, historically, and this is just coming out of my head, I feel like they're a bounce back team off games like that. That last game that they played, I feel like it's something that you want to remember, and it ended on a rough note, ended up very scrappy. And this is a team that plays a lot of pride. They got a lot of older guys in the team, so I think they come out here and play a good one. You saw Carolina's last game against Boston. They did, they just didn't look like they played a full 60, and I feel like San Jose comes out here, and like you said, it's kind of cracking me up, Ian, telling all your haters that finally you're back in San Jose, but it's not a bad price here as well. So I have no official play on it because I just don't trust them defensively still. But if I was to make a play, it would be on the Sharks here.
And the funny thing is, Andrew, you mentioned the word haters. They're not all haters. Some of these people saying this are people I have good rapport with, good relationship with, as fellow bettors and people on Twitter. And they're still saying, what did San Jose ever do to you? Well, guess what? I hope tonight San Jose, what they do for me is put some cash in my pocket. That's what I hope they do for me. Jimmy, what's your thoughts? San Jose, Carolina.
And this is it. This is the last chance for my technology today, or else I'm going to throw everything out the window. I like San Jose in this as well. Carolina, I think that was a tough psychological blow what they had there, losing in Boston there in that game. I think they felt that they controlled the play for 2 periods of play there, but then once again the Bruins, found it and dug deep and pulled out a win there that maybe they didn't deserve to get. But I think that's going to hurt Carolina, and I also don't think that Carolina can play the kind of safe game that they played with the Bruins there. I think that San Jose is going to come in and really put the speed on them. I like them as well. Give me San Jose money line.
Woo! We got it. We got a whole segment and game from Jimmy with no connection issues, no buffering, no stuttering, no stammering, no no nothing. That was very good. Thankfully. Woo! That's a
Yep.
relief. Good stuff. All right, on we go. Winnipeg, Dallas. Dallas minus 155, minus 160 home favorites. 5.5 shaded to the under in this game. There's no way I lay it with Dallas. I mean, it's been a peak and valley season. When they're in the valley, you don't bet Dallas. When they're in the peak, you ride Dallas. That's my motto. This team's capable of extended winning streaks and extended losing streaks. They've shown that this season. And after a great win streak, it's now 4 losses in a row. It started with Alex's Blackhawks, continued to St. Louis, continued to Minnesota, continued the other night to the first of these home and home against Winnipeg. Let's give Paul Maurice a ton of credit. The young blue line that's gotten better defensively. The penalty killing's improved, even with all the depletion and personnel loss due to off-season signings. You know, again, Trouba, Myers, and Sherratt are the big three, and of course Bufflin's still contemplating his future. Lost all that talent on the blue line, and here's Winnipeg just finding their game. And don't look now. But guess what? The forwards are really starting to come to life offensively for Winnipeg. Scheifele, Wheeler, Ehlers, Lyonnais, all starting to produce offensively. Look, I understand it's a revenge spot. Dallas lost in Winnipeg the other night. Maybe they do win this game. I'm not laying minus 160 to figure out passing the game, but at this price, it would be a Jets play or nothing for me. Alex, what's your thoughts? Winnipeg, Dallas.
Yeah, I'm going with the first period under in this one. We've seen this cash in 7 of the last 8 meetings between these two teams. A lot of them being scoreless in the first period. And like you said, this is a sell-off spot for Dallas, losing 4 in a row. It could be like the revenge angle, but these two teams just seem to play each other fairly tight, even when they are getting high-scoring affairs. There's a lot of one-goal battles back and forth. And they just seem to mirror each other fairly well, being division rivals. So I'm going to play the first period over. Or under rather, minus 1.5, minus $1.23, and then I'll look to play possibly over live if I see where there's some chances that are brewing with that second period. So that's the way I'm going to attack this game. Don't really have a feel on either side or the full game total.
All right, so under 1.5, minus 105 first period for Alex. Andrew, Jets and Stars.
Here we go. We'll try that again here. Yeah, I actually love that pick that Alex gave out. I might grab that personally as a small bet, but I'm not on anything personally in this one officially, so I'm not going to give anything out that I didn't already bet myself. But we got to give some hats off to both Winnipeg guys and Pittsburgh for the injuries that they've both battled all year and what they've still been able to do. I think it's incredible. Winnipeg, and I think, Alex, you and I have kind of gone back and forth about Connor Hellebuck and the goaltending for Winnipeg, and I think it's time to give them credit actually for stepping up and turning into being, good goalies, at least this year, their goaltending staff. So, I think this game could go under. I'm looking at this one. I like the first period under. I like the full game under as well. But I just have a feeling, it's tough to say when these teams clash up together. I would look at Winnipeg, though, because of the price. I've been trying to be more numbers oriented these days, and for that reason, I would look at Winnipeg.
I agree. Winnipeg's done nothing wrong, and they're getting a plus 140 out there in this game. That's tempting, but I'm going to pass. I'm going to stay away. This is we'll see if Dallas has something in them to bounce back. And again, this is the team that just beat them the other night as well. They get them again for a second straight game. Jimmy, Winnipeg, Dallas, what do you got?
Winnipeg, like the way they're playing right now, and good call there by Andrew about giving them credit, and also the Penguins too. They just keep overcoming all this adversity, like you said. And you mentioned Paul Maurice there. I think probably one of the most underrated coaches, I think, in the last 2 decades, really, if you think about it, guys. He's done an amazing job with so many teams and faced a lot of adversity himself. So credit to him as well. I like the Jets in this. The Stars look to be back to their losing ways, and yeah, I don't know, man. They're just one of those teams. Like they're gonna have to find a way not to be so streaky come February and March and April, or else they might not even make the playoffs.
Yeah, the excuses are out the window now. They're healthy. All right, everybody's back and in the lineup now for them, and now you're losing again. So at some point, push comes to shove, and you got to get it done. And Dallas back struggling again and on a losing skid. We'll see if they can snap that tonight. But it won't be easy against this Winnipeg team that's playing well right now. Last game on the card, Buffalo-Calgary. We've got Calgary minus 160. Home favorites, total 5.5 shaded to the over, minus 115. This is another one where at this number, it's Buffalo, 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 or nothing for me. And I optimally chose pass, nothing, because I'm going to leave the door open for Calgary. Obviously, we know the Bill Peters stuff is behind them. We know an interim coach is there now, and Jeff Ward, who moves over to become the head coach. And sometimes there's a uptick for a team when the new coach is there. We know it with Toronto, what we saw. We still might see it from New Jersey. I mean, even with Nasruddin in his first game behind the bench, they lost to Vegas the other night, but the effort was much better from New Jersey. So watch out for that. And you have to watch out for that with Calgary. They've won 2 in a row against Buffalo, in Buffalo last week, and then against Ottawa. Not exactly great competition, but 2 wins in a row is a start. More than anything, the fascinating thing going into this game is Jeff Ward put in the lines in a blender. We know this offense stinks right now for Calgary. That's why they're 10-0 to the under in their last 10 games. 10 straight unders for the Calgary Flames entering this game tonight. So Jeff Ward sees the offense having problems, and he's really shaking it up. Like, you can see these lines on paper, and it's like he's got him with him. He's got that guy with that guy. He's got Elias Lindholm centering Matthew Tkachuk and Andrew Mangiapane on the top line. And it's funny, Mangiapane on the top line, who's been nothing more than a third or fourth line guy at best all season and the last couple of years for Calgary. On the second line, he's opted to have Backlund centering Dylan Dubé and Sean Monahan. And Johnny Gaudreau, who's having a season to forget, a nightmare season really by his standards. He's down on the third line, and who's he playing with in terms of the morning skate today? Derek Ryan and Milan Lucic, 2 pluggers, 2 muckers to help Johnny Gaudreau get out of his funk offensively.
2 what?
2 muggers, 2 pluggers. Muckers, not
Yes.
muggers, muckers.
Not Marcus.
Pluggers is what he's got. Two plumbers, as we like to say, to help get Johnny Gaudreau going. We'll put him with Derek Ryan and Milan Lucic, who hasn't been able to put a puck in the ocean for 5 years, it seems. Wow. I mean, you're talking about a situation where, wow, that's a message sent to Johnny Gaudreau. Get your shit together. Maybe we got to give you a change of pace. Maybe 2 guys that are physical. They can't score much, can't do much offensively, but they can body check, open up ice for him. Maybe that's what he's seeing. But this is a loud and clear message that Johnny Gaudreau's floundering right now. It's not good enough, and he's going to have to find his way out of it. So the way I see it, Calgary stinks offensively. Part of me in the pit of my gut says, can we buy low on this team offensively and bet over the total tonight, 5.5? But they've gone under in 10 straight games, and I'm going to have to see some kind of chemistry and rhythm and fluidity offensively with Calgary with these crazy wacko line combos that Jeff Ward has put together before I can trust them here. So again, I was trying to make a case for the over. Can I bet this? Can I bet this? Can I bet this? And I would lean that way, but I think I'm going to optimally leave it alone and just keep it on the sidelines in this. But it's fascinating to see. You can tell Jeff Ward's going to try everything he can, shake up, jumble up the lines, and see what it gives his team tonight. Then at this price, still, I think Buffalo's got some value. Buffalo pummeled New Jersey. They could have beaten Toronto both games. The only reason I stayed off the Sabres is because I allow Calgary a chance with the coach to, put a few wins on the board together, like most teams do when they get a new coach. Alex, what's your thoughts? Sabres and Flames.
I'll keep it brief. What I take away from those lines basically, is that Calgary is going to try to get traffic in front of the net. And they want to at least have one guy on each line that has a decent enough shot or is a decent enough playmaker to score. So that explains the Mangiapane moving up to the first line, Gaudreau to the third. That's kind of the and that works for some teams, and that seems to be the way they're going to have to figure out how to score, at least for the time being. That when things aren't working, just make a mess of things and hope the puck finds its way into the back of the net. But that being said, the only thing I'm going to look at here would be the draw plus 300. We've seen 3 straight games for Calgary go into overtime before their last game with a game settled in regulation. This is a Calgary team we've seen a lot of their games go into OT. So this could be easily a 2-2 or a 3-3 spot. So whatever side you like on that over or under, I'm staying away from that. But I think we'll see it go past 60 minutes.
All right, liking the draw, Buffalo, Calgary at a really good price. Andrew's got to run, so we'll give him his thoughts on this game and let him wrap it up. Andrew, anything for Buffalo, Calgary?
Yeah, I'm going to pull the trigger here, boys. I'm going with the Buffalo Sabres in regulation. I got it plus 227 in this one. We're just racking up the price on this one, and it's the same thing. I mean, both teams, realistically, the last 10, last 20 looking similar, but Buffalo just impressed me more on both ends of the ice, more 200-foot game. And I trust them to get the job done, whereas Calgary are very worrisome. And it comes down to the price with me in this one. You mentioned Gaudreau having a horrible year so far. I don't know where the scoring is going to come from Calgary. And that's where I feel the same way as you, Ian, about the over. I liked the over initially with the old Calgary. With this new Calgary, I don't know what the hell I'm going to get from them. No point in reaching with that total. Take a shot here with the Buffalo Sabres at an outstanding regulation price.
Yeah, and Allmark in net. Allmark's been really good lately.
Yes.
Riddick's been really good in net. So let me see Calgary put some offense on the board first. Then maybe we go over
Absolutely.
the next game with Calgary. Jimmy, what's your thoughts? Buffalo, Calgary.
Yeah, you know what? I'm the same way. I'm going to pass in this game right now, just because you don't know what you're going to get with Calgary right now. I know Jeff Ward pretty well. I hope he does well out there, and I think he might end up being a pretty good coach for that team. But right now, obviously, they're still in the feeling out stage. They don't know what they have and how the chemistry is going to work between the players and him. So I'm going to pass on this. But if I was going to do something, I'd lean towards the over.
Lean towards the over. All right, nothing official there. Guys, normally I recap the plays, but I literally am doing a radio thing in 2 minutes. So this is the only day I'm not going to recap everybody's plays, but they will be posted on the Patreon page in about an hour or so. So make sure you check those there. Does anybody? I will say this: does anybody have a best bet in their play? Name it now, or forever hold your peace.
Nope.
Alex, Andrew,
Too many plays for a best bet.
and Jimmy.
I'll do the under in the Montreal, Colorado.
All right, Colorado, Montreal, best bet. I don't have a best bet either. They're all going to be one unit for me. So that's going to wrap up the show. Again, plays in full, including all the best bets, all the one unit plays will be posted on the Patreon page within the hour. So check that out. We usually recap it, but again, I'm squeezed right up against it for time. But again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, with our next edition, the Patreon NHL Ice Guys. For Alex B. Smith, Andrew McGinnis, and Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Good luck on the ice. We'll see you again tomorrow.